Hey, welcome to the Jacksonville Business Spotlight. This is Steve Bornson with Action Coach Business Coaching right here in Jacksonville. And our purpose really here is to interview local business owners and promote them on our social channels, as well as provide them and our audience here with a little bit of coaching. And this is really a free service that we offer because if every small business is strong, the economy is strong. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Marshall Reddy with FranNet. Welcome to the program. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you, Steve, for inviting me. I look forward to speaking with you.
Oh, thank you very much. So why don't you just start off by introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, my name is Marshall Reddy, and I'm a strategic franchise business consultant. I'm also a business broker and real estate broker here in Florida. I'm one of those accidental entrepreneurs that grew up in a military family and worked himself through school and never in a million years thought he'd be in business for himself. I short venture into the corporate world about 40 years ago, and getting let go along with everyone else in the company made me realize that maybe working for somebody else wasn't going to be where I needed to be. So that started me down my first entrepreneurial path with a company out of Austria, which I did very well with, but I traveled Monday through Friday for 5 years, got involved in the retail side of that same business, which was the optical business. And my partner and I built the largest string of independent opticals in Jacksonville. And
wow.
Then we separated, and after a few years, and then I took some time off, a few months off, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the next phase of my life. Thought, maybe business consulting, specifically franchising, might be an area that I could go into. And 29 years later, I'm still in that space. It's been a wild ride.
So tell us a little bit about your company.
Well, ironically, I got fired 40 years ago. That was long before we had, all the HR terms where, you're reassigned, reorganized, repositioned. Back then, it was just one day you had a job, one day you didn't. And so the irony to all of this is for the last almost 30 years, as I work with people oftentimes that are in transition. They've been let go from their companies. Most are mid-senior level executives. A lot of them are in their mid-40s and up, and they're thinking, what do I want to do with the next phase of my life? And I've always had this idea of maybe doing something on my own. As fun as that might sound, it's also really scary. So where do I start? Is there somebody out there that can help me figure out if this makes sense? Who are they, and where do I start with them? And so that's my story. That's what I do. I work with individuals that are looking to make that change and look to start writing their own chapters in their book versus somebody writing it for them.
So you talked a little bit about who you serve, but who are the best customers? Who are the people that you tend to like to work with most?
Somebody that's motivated to take control of their life. And that can be from the enlisted person coming out of the Navy, or the CEO of a major corporation. I've worked with all of them in almost 3 decades. At the end of the day, give me somebody that wants to take control of their life, understands that there's some risk associated with it, but is willing to take a calculated risk, and they just want some help figuring out what are the directions for them to, start looking, and then what steps do they need to follow so they can make a good decision. Those are my best candidates.
So I imagine a lot of this is when you're working with different business owners or potential business owners is really coaching them through that transitional phase where they're going to where, okay, I'm not sure what I'm doing, to helping them really find a business that really fits them.
I was speaking to a gentleman the other day out in Colorado, and one of the questions he asked me right up front was, what are the best franchises? And, that's a question that I've heard a lot over 30 years. And what's best for me may be worst for you. My starting point is, I'm kind of like eHarmony. We're going to stop and we're going to start with a profile first. And that profile comes back to me on 15 pages on who you are, your values, your motives, how you interpret information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the starting point. I don't believe in just throwing the dart at the dartboard and hoping that you hit the right spot. I want to get to know who you are. What are you trying to do? Is business ownership the right vehicle for you to get into? It may not be. And over the years, I've had to tell some people, I think you should stay in the find a job or stay in that world. You have to really want something bad enough and understand that there will be rainy days and understand there'll be sunny days. And what's going to be your driver? If it's just, I had a bad day at the office and I think I'll go do something on my own, that's not a good reason to jump into entrepreneurialism. One of the things that I have learned over the years is most of the folks that I work with have spent 60, 70, 80 hours a week working for somebody else. Mm-hmm. There have been different times over the years where a lot of folks might have been downsized and they were still at the company and now they're doing 3 people's jobs, but they're not getting paid 3 times that amount. So it starts becoming a little bit of a demotivator.
So what advice would you have for people that are looking to start a business, and why should they look at purchasing a franchise? Why should they talk to you?
Well, I think first of all, the franchising model is a bridge model. You are a corporate person and you're coming out of the corporate community and you're used to a certain level of support and you're good at implementing a plan of action. But somewhere in the back of your mind, you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Most startup companies, 90% of them, they fail. Mm-hmm. How do I go from the corporate world to the entrepreneurial world in the safest manner? And that's kind of where the franchising model starts to appeal because it's a bridge model.
Right.
The systems are in place. I get the best of both worlds. I get the system and the support and the guidance and the help that I used to get perhaps in the corporate community. And I get the opportunity to become an entrepreneur, which is something I've always wanted to do, but I'm not out in that boat by myself. I've done this for almost 3 decades. And most of my business today is referred to me literally from all over the country, from former candidates and clients. And sometimes those are some of those clients that have referred someone to me are people I've suggested, don't do this. Don't go into business right now. Maybe the timing's not right. And they become some of my best referral sources because someone was just honest. I have a lot of experience doing this. We're going to talk about them. We're going to figure out the why. So we're the why, the what, and then the how. Those are the 3 areas that we're going to focus on after we start with that profile. And if it makes sense, then we'll continue down that path of discovery. And once we've isolated some opportunities, then we'll provide you with the tools, the resources you need to make a good decision and to do your due diligence.
So you really help take them through the process. And people need that when they're looking and they don't know what they don't know. It really is the challenge out there. Let me ask you this question. It's said that, smart people learn from their mistakes. Wise people learn from other people's mistakes. What's maybe some mistakes that you've made along the way as an entrepreneur that maybe you're willing to share with us, with the other entrepreneurs out here, so they can learn from your experience?
I think first and foremost is don't assume that you know everything. Mm-hmm. 2, every day is going to be different. Don't assume that other people always have your best interest in mind. Don't assume that there's one right answer. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, so to speak. You got to be open to that. But when you are an entrepreneur, you've got to be able to pivot quickly. And if you don't have the capacity to do that, then becoming an entrepreneur is probably not a good direction for you to go until you learn that from people like yourself that coach people on change, making good decisions, and to do them within a timely manner.
But what's the best way for people to get hold of you?
You can reach out to me at marshall@whatthefranchise.com. That's my email address, marshall@whatthefranchise.com, or go to my website, whatthefranchise.com.
So I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Again, this is Steve Goranson with Jacksonville Business Spotlight, helping small businesses to really work smarter, not harder, so they can live more life.